Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're tracking a massive technological and economic shift that is fundamentally rewiring our world, the 2026 EV ecosystem. We're going to be looking at everything here, from the microscopic chemistry inside the battery cells all the way out to the macroeconomic impacts on our global power grid. Let's get right into it. To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of what's happening, just think about this number, 50%. According to projections from Goldman Sachs, EV battery prices will have plummeted a staggering 50% from where they were in 2023 by the close of 2026. I mean, we're talking about half the cost in just 3 years. That kind of economic freefall, it changes the math on absolutely everything in the transportation sector. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll hit plunging costs. Then we'll look at the LFP versus NMC rivalry, see how fleets and freight are adapting, examine the evolving infrastructure, and finally, we'll wrap up with the second life battery boom. Section 1. Plunging costs of EV batteries. We are seeing falling metal prices and some seriously brilliant structural innovations completely reshape the economic baseline of how we move. So Goldman Sachs researchers are forecasting that global average battery prices are crashing to roughly $80 per kilowatt hour by 2026. To put that into perspective, a big chunk of that cost decline is simply because the metals inside, stuff like lithium and cobalt, are just getting cheaper. But it's also because engineers are doing something really clever. They are ditching those old bulky battery modules and packing the cells directly into the battery pack itself. Less wasted space means less wasted money. In this right here, brilliantly illustrates why this actually matters to you and me. At $80 per kilowatt hour, we hit a massive milestone, unsubsidized total ownership cost parity with gas vehicles in the US, arriving right here in 2026. We are literally talking about an electric car costing the exact same to own as a traditional gas car completely without needing a government tax credit to make the math work. This is the spark for a true consumer-led adoption phase. But what exactly is inside these newly affordable EVs? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the LFP versus NMC battery rivalry. First up, we've got LFP, which stands for lithium iron phosphate. Because this chemistry is entirely cobalt-free and utilizes an ultra-stable iron phosphate cathode, it is incredibly safe thermally, and it lasts a very, very long time. That specific mix of being both cheap and super durable, that's exactly why it captured roughly 50% of the entire global EV battery market by 2025. It's actually a pretty dramatic rivalry when you look at it. LFP gives you just incredible durability. We're talking 3,000 to 6,000 charge cycles. That is easily a decade of daily charging, plus an 80% lower fire risk. But on the flip side, you have NMC, or nickel manganese cobalt. Now, NMC boasts premium energy density. It packs way more power into less weight, which gives you those massive 300-plus mile ranges, and it performs significantly better when you're dealing with freezing winter temperatures. Now, let's zoom out from the chemical level. Section 3, Fleets, Freight, and Ride-Hailing. We're going to see how these durable batteries are transforming vehicles on our roads at a massive commercial scale. Just check out these jaw-dropping numbers from Uber's Q1 2026 data. Their drivers completed over 154 million zero-emission trips globally. In Europe, almost 18% of all on-trip miles are now electric. However, the data also shows us exactly how public policy shifts can impact adoption. Over in the US and Canada, the share of EV miles actually dipped to 9.1%, which directly coincided with the phase-out of US federal tax credits for EV purchases. It's a really clear reminder that while the tech is totally ready, adoption at a massive scale still reacts heavily to economic incentives. So, that's passenger ride-hailing. But what about the massive trucks delivering all of our goods? Well, the heavy-duty freight sector is facing its own massive transformation right now, and the rules of the road are literally being rewritten as we speak. Out west, the California DMV has systematically paved the way for driverless, heavy-duty autonomous freight on public roads. They've officially lifted a previous ban on autonomous vehicles weighing over 10,000 pounds. But to deploy commercially, manufacturers now have to complete a grueling 500,000 miles of heavy-duty testing. Plus, they're required to maintain rapid communication links. First responders have to be able to connect within 30 seconds, and local officials can actually issue emergency electronic geofencing directives. Basically, they can force autonomous fleets out of restricted areas within 2 minutes. It's an incredibly structured approach to putting giant self-driving robots on our public highways. Now, what's really interesting about this next section is how we actually power all of this. Section 4, Evolving EV Charging Infrastructure.
This covers the physical and digital realities of keeping the grid alive.
And we have to start with security here. Consider this situation. Back in late 2025, a transport operator in Oslo ran some tests and discovered something pretty wild. They found out that Chinese-made electric buses could actually be remotely stopped and disabled by their manufacturer, just through software updates and diagnostics. This alarming real-world test perfectly illustrates why hardware origins and data security are now absolute deal-breakers for the charging grid. I mean, think about it. EV chargers are effectively internet-connected nodes attached directly to our most critical power infrastructure. Charging is no longer just about plugging in a cable. It's being driven by three massive trends. First up, uptime rules. The UK is now mandating 99% uptime, and they are backing that up with punishing £10,000 fines for every broken rapid charger. That is rapidly forcing smaller companies to consolidate. Second, because of those cyber threats we were just talking about, major operators now require strict, documented supply chain audits for all their hardware. And third, vehicle-to-grid, or V2G. Bidirectional charging is finally scaling commercially, effectively turning millions of parked cars into mobile grid stabilizers. It's a total game changer. Let's move to the final chapter of our ecosystem story. Section 5, the Second Life Battery Boom. What happens when an EV battery just isn't good enough for a car anymore? Well, a highly lucrative circular economy is waiting for it. Think about the chronological journey of a battery for a second. For the first 8 to 10 years, it lives inside an electric vehicle, but right around year 10, its capacity degrades below 80%. Now, for a driver, that means your car's range drops a bit too much for everyday driving. But here's the catch. That battery is still perfectly capable of holding a massive amount of energy. So for years 11 through 25, it gets repurposed for stationary storage. Its usefulness absolutely does not end the day it leaves the car. And the economics behind this second act are staggering. By the year 2040, the global Second Life EV battery market is projected to be valued at an incredible $224 billion. Companies are literally taking these degraded car batteries, testing them out, and stacking them together to create massive, highly cost-effective energy storage banks. So where are all these recycled batteries actually ending up? Well, power backup takes the lion's share, accounting for over 55% of the market. And the reason why makes total sense. A commercial building or even a home using a battery for emergency backup only cycles it very infrequently. It basically just sits on standby most of the time. That makes it the absolute perfect, low-stress retirement job for a battery that can no longer handle the rapid, daily demands of highway driving. We've tracked this entire journey together, from the plunging costs of raw chemistry through autonomous freight and grid security, all the way to a multi-billion-dollar battery afterlife. This whole ecosystem is entirely connected. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. When your next car finally dies, what is its battery going to power next? Will it stabilize your local power grid? Maybe store solar energy for a neighborhood school, or even back up a hospital? The future of energy is completely circular, and honestly, we are just getting started. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.